I have a question for you. If you could only play one game for the rest of your life, what would you pick? See, this question is insanely hard because I play a bunch of different games that meet a bunch of different needs. If I don't feel like talking and I just want to experience a nice story, then I probably would pick something like God of War 2018. If I'm in a gamery mood and I want to make goofs and gags with a bunch of my buddies, then I'll probably go to Fortnite, as embarrassing as that is to say. If I wanted to explore and seemingly have an endless grind, I probably would go with one of the new Zelda games. But if I wanted a great multiplayer experience, the most obvious answer for me is
Pilot sees the world differently. Got you. Fast and agile. When linked to a Titan, a pilot can only be stopped by overwhelming force, or an equal.
For those of you who don't know, because the game is nearly 10 years old, Titanfall 2 is an action shooter made by Respawn Entertainment, a company probably most known for their battle royale game Apex Legends, which takes place in the Titanfall world, but I'll talk more about that game in a little bit. Most people know this by now, but Respawn is a company that was made of a bunch of Infinity Ward members that were fired or left. Infinity Ward being one of the 3 companies that makes Call of Duty games. It's a bit more complicated than that, but there are a lot of videos out there on that subject, so please go check them out. Titanfall 2 is a follow-up to, well, obviously Titanfall, a game released on Xbox One and PC in March of 2014. Now, I would like to say that I'll review this game eventually, but I honestly don't even think I can buy it anymore, which is kind of sad. Titanfall was very popular. It wasn't the first advanced movement shooter, but it was the first that got it right. Well, almost right. They didn't have a slide button, apparently, but a double jump and wall running were added, along with Titans, obviously. It really was a fantastic game, but it lacked a campaign, and there were obvious improvements needed in the multiplayer. So 2 years after its release, we saw Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is essentially their retry at making a competitive shooter. They took the feedback from the first game and molded this new experience that's nearly timeless in my opinion. The movement in Titanfall 2 is perfect. It is insanely fast-paced, but doesn't ever feel overwhelming. The speed the player can get to with wall running and sliding is just insane. This is complemented by the Titan's slow yet powerful playstyle. The pilots can run around and attack like a wasp, while the Titan sluggishly moves and hits like a truck. Movement in video games is my focus 9 out of 10 times. That's why I love the Spider-Man games so much, and why I think Black Ops 3 Zombies is the best Zombies. Movement systems make or break a game for me, and Titanfall 2 nails it. This is best showcased in the fun time trial right at the beginning of the campaign. Holy crap, man, dude, I'm just so good at transitions. In my opinion, Titanfall 2 has one of the most memorable campaigns in shooters, at least compared to COD. Halo has some memorable campaigns. Shooter campaigns are a lot like action movies. They all have these insanely unrealistic missions that go balls to the walls at times. Titanfall 2 takes this to the next level. There are a handful of missions in COD games that I can remember, but none of them are from the same game. Escape from Vorkuta from Black Ops 1, No Russian, and that one mission from Infinite Warfare where the robot saved you in space. Man, I cried so hard during that scene. True story. My point being, if COD campaigns were balls-to-the-wall action, then Titanfall 2 completely throws the ball through the wall and into the next room. Nearly every mission in this game is incredible. Every single time I started the next mission, I thought, oh, this is the best one so far. Not only is every mission crazy, but it has its own unique aspect to it. But they continuously get more and more insane until the story stops. And I'm not misspoken in that sentence. I meant stops, not ends. Because the story doesn't really end, it stops on a cliffhanger. This is the biggest point I have against the story, but I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit later. I'm sorry for making you wait, I just want to keep glazing this campaign. To start it off, the opening cinematic is peak game introduction. Not only is it beautifully animated, but it gives a story reason for why the player character is better in every way than every other soldier. In COD, you're just some military guy, and all the other people on your team are just bad AI, even though they should be at the same skill level as your character. In Titanfall 2, they make it evident in the cutscenes that pilots, the players, are just built different. This is very similar to Halo in the way that Spartans move. Pilots move unlike any other soldier. They fight like no one else. The AI isn't far from COD, but you feel different when you're playing this game because you're shown to be better in every way. You're a pilot, so it's no surprise that you move differently from the other soldiers you're fighting with. To start off the campaign, you're obviously shown how to play the game, leading you to the Gauntlet, which I believe is the best tutorial section in video games. I actually really like Black Ops 3's free run, so I ran the Gauntlet like an insane person back when the game came out. I still ran it like 15 times on my first playthrough, but I had to drag myself away from it because this is just the first mission of the game. Some people had insane runs on this thing. It's saying something that a small game mode in your game has its own speedrun community. I'll actually talk more about the Gauntlet a little bit later. What the heck am I doing? I haven't even introduced the story yet. Alright, skip if you want to avoid spoilers, but you don't really need to. Titanfall 2 stars our character Jack Cooper, who starts the story as a rifleman 3rd class. Cooper is being trained to be a pilot by pilot captain Ty Lastimosa. After Lastimosa dies in combat, his Titan is granted to Cooper. BT-7274 and Cooper's relationship is unbelievably fantastic. One amazing part of the story is that the player character has speaking roles and sometimes you get to decide what he says. It's usually not a big game-changing decision, but it's enough to change Jack's personality a little bit. For example, you can make him more cautious every time BT throws him, or you can make him excited to do this fun thing with his buddy. It's not a big deal, but it really helps with the immersion and deepening your bond with BT. I played through the game 3 different times, so I actually went through every different combination. My first run to experience the story, I just did every up option. In my second run, I did for the helmets, and I did every down option. In my third run, I did in master mode, and I went as a silent protagonist. I also love that Cooper starts off as a rifleman. It adds this feeling of worthiness you and Jack acquire after each boss fight. Oh yeah, I haven't even mentioned this yet. Titanfall 2 is boss fights, a thing that I think only Infinite Warfare's campaign had for Call of Duty. Boss fights that each start with their own animation and that are actually kind of hard if you aren't prepared or locked in. And on hardest difficulty, they're actually just really hard while being locked in. Specifically Viper, I felt like I was playing Dark Souls when fighting him. The strategy I had to come up with was insane. I was switching through all of my classes. Some of their animations just don't really make any sense, because why doesn't Cooper shoot them when they open the door? But I guess Rule of Cool overrides it, so I didn't remove any points. Each of the boss fights have their own gimmick and showcase a different Titan playstyle. It was fun because even though every fight was a Titan, it wasn't like you were fighting the same guy. I do wish the enemies were given a little bit more depth. I know that's not what the game is about, but the only character stuff we got for them was in the radios on the level we are going to kill them. I would have liked to see some cutscenes showing them tracking BT and Cooper, and then we could even see how they interact with their Titans. I don't even think we heard another Titan speak in the entire campaign, which is kind of lame because BT and Cooper's relationship is the best part of the game. Are you telling me that no other pilot is buddies with their Titan? I love when BT makes jokes about shortcuts after that one mission where they split up. Or like I mentioned earlier, the two have a funny interaction every time BT throws Cooper. It would have made the bad guys way more interesting. I would have loved to see that their Titans were reflections of their personalities. Like, there was this bad guy that reminded me of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it would have been really funny to see his Titan mark someone like Carl Weathers, so it would have been like a Predator reference. I'm not saying they should have done exactly this, but I want something more from the bad guys. And notice that I'm saying the bad guys, because I had to actually Google their name. It is shockingly a pretty deep story, but the presentation just isn't perfect. I went the whole story thinking they were called the Apex Predators, which is kind of true. The main bad guys are the IMC, and they're contracting the Apex Predators to fight you and protect them. Each of the bosses are Apex Legends. Predators. You go through the levels fighting IMC goons and then fighting Apex bosses at the end. And I would like to add that it's insanely obvious when a boss fight is about to start. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like they are supposed to be surprises, but every boss fight starts with a radio introduction to the legend. Predator. I don't know why I keep doing that, but it's shooting game writing step 1. Hear bad guy say bad thing, then fight bad guy, kill bad guy. But the boss arenas are the most open locations, so the second you enter the room, you know you're about to brawl. The best fight arena is probably the Viper fight I mentioned earlier. It just felt like the most badass and intense fight out of all of them. The final fight kind of felt like a little bit of a letdown just because of how awesome and hard the Arc fight was. She had this laser that decimated BT's health, but the atmosphere of the fight wasn't nearly as cool as the previous, and some of the other fights were actually pretty cool too. For example, the house construction level was one of the most interesting environments in any shooter I've ever played. This level came at the perfect time. I figured the campaign was going to be a bottle episode because it opened with a series of levels where it was just BT and Cooper trying to get off the planet. This mission showed me that they weren't just going to be relatively tame with the locations. Just because we're still on that planet doesn't mean that you won't be able to be insanely creative with the environments. It also was the first point where I was impressed with the movement puzzles. In the beginning, I didn't love the movement puzzles because if you paused for even a second, God forbid, fail it once, you would see the Ghost Runner. And I'm not a fan of the Ghost Runner because the movement parts aren't very hard. Despite what Wikipedia might say, there basically is only one way to finish each mission, and they're pretty easy moves once you know where to go. Starting on Blood and Rust, I began to have a lot of fun with the movement. I began to be happy that they made movement a part of the game instead of just giving you movement tools and creating an average shooter layout. This is heightened even more so with Effect and Cause. Time travel is introduced, and it makes the movement in the level insanely interesting and fun. It's also exclusive to the stage, so it's a rewarding reason to revisit the level. I was actually excited to go back and look for pilot helmets, and then I got sad because I got all the pilot helmets in my first run because I was having so much fun that I explored every nook and cranny of the level. Speaking of helmets, exploration is a great thing in games and allows for more replayability when done right. I just don't think it was done super well in this game. Some of the helmets were perfectly fine. They showed you them in the far distance or behind a wall. This allows the player to start paying attention to their environment and explore more. Other times they're basically random locations, and I definitely needed a guide to find them. This was the biggest problem I had with the campaign, apart from the thing that I mentioned earlier, which I guess I'll talk about now. The game ends with a post-credit scene where Cooper's helmet gets a Morse code message, presumably from BT. But forget about that. We are never getting a Titanfall 3. The real ending is obviously before the credits. Bam! Apex, baby! Whoop! Whoop! I can't believe they ended the campaign with a character giving some bullshit excuse as to why he's not going to fight you, and then throwing the title of the next game in your face. And they definitely knew. Titanfall 2 came out in 2016. They were already working on Apex. I bet at the time, they thought this was like a fun Easter egg / hint. No one could have known about this until after Apex dropped. However, it feels like a slap in the face now. Titanfall has a great world and a fun story, not to mention insanely awesome mechs. I definitely believe I'm not alone in saying that I want a Titanfall 3, and Apex is the reason that we're not getting one. It's almost been 8 years since Titanfall 2 came out, and I'm still having a blast with it. If they won't make Titanfall 3, then the only thing we can do is play Titanfall 2. We need to show them that the Titanfall community is still here, waiting. So let's talk about the multiplayer.
Enemy reinforcements will be on their way.
I have bought and played every single COD, starting from Black Ops 1 to now. I even went back and played COD 4 through MW2 because I love the series. I'm saying all this to give credibility to what I'm going to say next. Titanfall 2 is my favorite multiplayer experience. The movement is the largest aspect of this. If you master the movement, then every fight feels a lot more fair. If you start to lose, then there's ways to get away. This allows for the player to be good in multiple ways. A good gunfighter can fight evenly with someone who's good at movement. Anytime I die, I feel like it was my fault for being worse in one of those two categories. Well, unless I get shot by one of a Titan. But that's kind of my fault too, because every map has a ton of indoor locations, and Titans are these giant red glowing points on the screen. Everything is balanced. The slow, obvious Titans don't feel insanely overpowered because the pilots have the tools to work around them. Titanfall's multiplayer is a perfect mix between brain dead and hardcore focused. In a normal game of attrition, which is the only game mode you can find nowadays, you can hop on and fight hardcore against other pilots, or you can sit back and get grunt kills. And as the game goes on, more and more AI starts to join the fight. This is also a great introduction point for new FPS players. Sometimes playing a COD game is impossible for a newcomer, especially if they're playing on a friend's console in the current age of COD. Skill-based matchmaking has made COD virtually unplayable. A new player will get their ass handed them repeatedly and never feel any rewarding sense. In Titanfall 2, you could just keep killing grunts. Even though it's not hard, you're still adding to the count. It's a fantastic idea, and I'm shocked that there aren't a lot of games that do this. It also helps with the liveliness of each map. These maps need to be huge to allow for the Titans, so you can go a while without even seeing a pilot, especially in the early game. The grunts are there to give you something to shoot at while we're waiting for the real game to start. One thing I really love about the game is how the matchmaking auto gives you party invites. It allows for the game to be very playable, even 7.5 years later. Though it's not like it's hard to find a match normally. Attrition really is the only playable mode, but I don't think it takes longer than 10 minutes to find a match. And I know 10 minutes is a lot, but keep in mind that I would get like 15 party invites in that time, and the game is 7.5 freaking years old. God, I haven't even mentioned the class system yet. It's similar to Black Ops 1, where you get money as you play and you can use that to buy your weapons. I think this is better than unlocking them as you level because you only get the guns that you want. Sometimes in COD, I would groan whenever I would check the level thingy, and my favorite gun would be locked at level 45. This is just the superior way to do weapon unlocks, in my opinion. Also, there's a shocking level of customization, not only for the pilots, but also for the Titans. I feel like I've never seen the exact same Titan with the exact same decals. Okay, I've gushed a lot about the multiplayer. I will leave this section with one final note. Please play Titanfall 2. I love this game so much and I really want a Titanfall 3. I know that I don't have a large following, but if I can get like 1 or 2 people to hop on the game a little bit more, then I'm pretty happy. All right, here is everything else.
Pilot, our location has been compromised.
Here it is, my friends. I said I would talk about it more, and here I am. So I started the script before I got the plat for this game. I wrote like 30-ish pages. I didn't worry about it at all. The game was a shooter. The platinum shouldn't be that hard. And it wasn't, for the most part. One bronze trophy kicked my ass for way too long. Becomes the master. Oh my goodness. So I think the console version of Titanfall 2 has a different movement system than the PC one. That, or it's insanely limited. I'll get to that in a second. My issue with the gauntlet ended up being a weapon problem. I first used the base pistol, then the assault pistol, then I finally got it with the auto shotgun. I got to the shotty after looking it up. I almost had it with the assault pistol, but I needed to be more accurate with it, so it led to more possible user error. After like my first 50 attempts, I looked up the world record because I thought I could just like take a strap from that. But then I learned that the world record is 4 seconds long, so I didn't actually end up learning all that much. I tried the grenade sliding, but the PS5 version of the game can't handle moving that fast, so you don't actually scan the gauntlet start barrier. I deadass put like 500 or more attempts into the run to get this stupid trophy, but that's not a bad thing because it was insanely rewarding. I'm gonna play my final run for you, and it lasts so long at the end because I got up and ran around my basement after getting it.
Hey, that was my best time. I must be getting slow.
And I'll also show you one of my assault pistol ones. I want to see if anyone can do the grenade sliding way on PlayStation, so try it out and prove me wrong. Next up is Frontier Defense. And I played this a good amount. I really love PvE games and game modes. Like I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of zombies. Frontier Defense is actually more alive than the multiplayer. It really only takes a minute or 2 to load up into a match. Even though it's probably going to be easy or normal, it's still pretty fun. I bought a fresh copy of Titanfall 2 on a fresh account, and I platinumed the game and put several nights of multiplayer into it. Not only is it as good as I remember, it's freaking better. This is a game that speaks to me on literally every level. Every single multiplayer game I review in the future will be compared to this. This game is the gold standard. And for that, it's not only getting a very prestigious 9 out of 10, not only topping the game ranking list, but also being so amazing that I need to put it on a list of its own. For now, I present Zach's favorite games of all time, the list top 10. And since Titanfall 2 is the only game on the list, it will hold the #1 spot. So here are the 2 lists side by side. Let me know what games you want me to review in the future. I do plan on reviewing every game ever made, so please feel free to comment anything down below. All right, I'm done. Thank you guys for watching. I really had a blast making this video. See ya. Please subscribe.